What is up, everybody? We're back again for another episode. We have Cody Carnes. If you have not seen him, he's a cold email expert, not just any other name, but he is known by the best of the best, used by the best of the best, and has worked with the best of the best. You have seen them, he has worked with them, or is considered an authority by them. So, Cody, thank you so much for jumping on board. We're going to talk about a lot of cold email sauce today.
Yes, we are. I appreciate the awesome intro, V. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. Let's go. All right, Cody, first question I always ask, why do people pay you?
Why do people pay me?
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's a pretty good question. I think in terms of like the target market and like the problems that we solve in terms of cold email, like let's say for example we were targeting business owner above like X amount of revenue, which is what we like to do. Obviously, we like to target people who already have some sort of business in place. They have they're making a ton of money as well, and have the target market fit, have a proven process. Just solving those problems with them on the client acquisition process, helping them acquire more clients, building a system, whether that's us building the cold email infrastructure inside of their business, or working on a recurring slash retaining on a maintenance recurring basis. I guess like that's like the main reason people pay us is basically solving those problems, helping them bring on more clients, acquire high ticket clients, and then helping them build the system as well, if that's the offer.
Yeah, makes sense. So, do you think that's a good thing for other people to look at in terms of targeting people who've got a defined business model versus people starting out? What are your thoughts there? Would you take on someone starting fresh, or is that a no-no for you?
So usually what we do is like in terms of partnerships with companies, we need to make sure that they're at least above like 30K MRR or
Okay.
even
Yeah.
50K.
Yeah.
In terms of like, let's say for example, a company is at like 5K a month or like 3K or 10, even 10K. We usually just like instead of working directly with them for a done it for you, we always like to have like some sort of downsell, whether that is, some sort of coaching or consulting or something that is much more high leverage is essentially just giving them the systems and SOPs that are essentially like our exact done for you, but package it into like systems and SOPs. We give that to them, and then like a certain amount of sales calls as well. But yeah, in terms of the done for you service or some sort of partnership, we always like them to be at least above like 30K MRR. That's
Makes
kind of like the
sense.
sweet spot.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I think a lot of people end up struggling because they're trying to sell to people who themselves have no idea what they're even selling. So I think having at least some sort of proof that works great. Um, you're a person who's very bullish on personalization, and I think you do personalization at scale extremely well. So yeah, I'd love to see if you can undercover some of that for us and open up a bit of the curtains to give us some bit of that secrets as to how you do it at scale.
I can share definitely a couple bits of sauce. I found a
Yeah.
new software. So the in terms of like if you wanted to personalize that scale with
Yeah.
like written text, I like to use line.ai or quicklines.ai. Or I just talked with the client a couple hours ago, and basically, he was, kind of like setting it up where we want to make sure that we're either leveraging AI or leveraging very, very specific job titles. He was actually wanted to target like employee size like 20 to 35 and then employee size 50 to 100. And like he's been in the game for 20 years. Like he knows exact specific like pain points, their goals, their desires.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's kind of like a very, very easy way to personalize that scale, like have them in like
mm.
one specific employee size set in one campaign and then the other ones because the founders
Nice.
he basically helps them exit and a little bit
Mm,
of backstory. Like he knows
mm,
their specific pain points and their goals. So tailoring the
mm.
copy to that, that's a very good way to personalize at scale. And then also leveraging AI personalization. There's
Yep.
also a new software. It's called Tavis.io.
Ah,
Tavis.io
yeah.
basically like
Yeah.
clones your voice. Have you heard of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I have.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
I found out about that a couple days ago. It seems
Yeah.
pretty cool. In
Yeah.
terms of like not the first cold email, but like the follow ups to make sure deliverability is at a good level. I might try that very soon. And then like lines.ai, quicklines.ai, and then I'm gonna try out Tavis. I think I saw it in the Hormozy video, and you can't go wrong with
Yeah.
listening to
Yeah. Yeah.
Hormozy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a couple other ones in terms of like, I think pitch lane's a really good one, and then
Yes.
also just like being very very specific, either AI or specific job title, specific pain points,
Yeah.
or get a VA to manually go through the list of leads and just find like certain like research touch points. It's a very, very good way to do that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Nice. I love it. I love that you've mentioned we've gone into AI territory. Yeah, Tavis is great. There's also another one called Be Human if you want to check them out.
Be
Same sort
human.
of same sort of vibe. And obviously Pitchlane, shout out Pitchlane, they're a great product. So
Shout out
you
Ryan.
sort of open up a nice little segue to my third question, which is what are your top three cold emailing tools in your stack right now?
Cody must stack. I would say just three. I would say Smart Lead, got number one, and then Line.ai.
Yeah.
And then I would say for the third, I mean, we got to shout out Nick Abraham. A little bit of Scrubby.io. I
Yeah, we gotta
think we
gotta put
have
in
to.
Scrubby. All those
Yeah,
catch-all emails that print money. Absolutely agree with you. We use
exactly.
Scrubby as well. It's such a game changer. Yeah.
Nick Abraham, link in the description.
Yeah, I will be doing that. I 100% will be doing that. Also, as a weird sort of segue, if anyone wants to pick up some good sauce on cold emailing, Nick's a great dude. So check him out on Twitter as well. This is even his podcast, but still, just check him out. He's great. And we also have a podcast with Nick, so you can watch that in the second video. But watch this one first. All right. So carrying on with that question set that we have, I do want to understand. We've spoken about some powerful tools, which is great. But let's go into your current configuration. Everyone wants to find out what's a good way to send emails, gaps, structures, number of mailboxes per domain, all that stuff. What have you seen work extremely well for you and your clients?
So in terms of like the domains and inboxes, usually I think you talk about this a lot, V. Basically one domain and then two inboxes,
Okay.
slowly ramping
Yep.
up the volume. Usually around 2 weeks, letting it warm up. Usually I do like 40 to 60% reply rates to kind of mess with,
Yep.
make sure that the reply is at high level.
Yep. What's the time gap when you send emails from that domain or that mailbox? Do you send it every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes? How do you approach that? Have you done any beta testing to see this works better than the other?
I don't really do a lot of testing on like
Okay.
little things like that. I
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
just do like I go like the little figures where it's like probably 7 to 8 minutes between emails,
Makes
something along
sense.
the lines of that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And what have you seen to be the ideal number of emails to send out per day that gives like a good okay, we know that we're gonna get some heat as a result of sending these emails? Because a lot of times people send 100 emails and they get discouraged saying, oh, cold emailing doesn't work. So do you feel like there's like a break even point at which you can say, all right, cold emailing works because I have passed certain threshold on a daily level or monthly level?
In terms of like a monthly level, usually I guess it's like I usually do like in 2 week intervals. So like the first 2 weeks, let's say the campaign launches after 2 weeks, we've sent you know usually the first couple weeks is a little bit slower than like after a couple of months of ramping. Usually after 2 weeks, there's sent at least like 5 to 7,000. After that point, we can kind of see like which campaigns and which angles are working, which are not. If you send
Okay.
that many cold emails, you could definitely see because I do a ton of different campaigns, like nothing
Yeah, yeah,
crazy. If you're
yeah.
sending like, let's say the first month is like 10,000 emails total, I usually break that up into like four campaigns maybe. By that
Okay.
point, you can kind of see like either turn off the campaigns that are not really seeing results, or if the ones are seeing results, kind of like just add on top like the copy, add any sort of unique mechanism, maybe test a different like call to action, different angle on top of the one that's already working. Like don't mess with the one that's working. Just like duplicate that. I think it's very similar to ads. Like duplicate the ad set
Yes. Yes.
essentially, and then just like add different tests.
Yeah.
Very very similar to that. I usually like doing something like that in the first couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Great, perfect analogy. I use that as well. Ad sets, have some A/B testing running with ad sets. It's a great win. Okay, um, now when you're sending out these cold emails, you obviously have a follow-up infrastructure. Can you tell me what exactly your follow-up infrastructure is? How many emails do you send up in your follow-ups? What exactly is in the follow-up emails as well? Because sometimes you're sort of like, what do I send? What do I actually tell this person? Like bump, hey, what do you do? What works well for you?
In terms of like the actual angles inside the follow-ups,
Yeah.
usually I mean there's so many different ways to test this. A couple things that you guys could emulate right away is essentially like the reason you reached out, some sort of case study, some sort of value proposition, modify share a quick video, or what I've dabbled into recently is just like create like a free training, like a very very in-depth free training. What you have as well with Smart Lead, 20
Yep.
pages, 40 pages, mention that inside of the cold email. Like, hey, I just put together, a free training on how, and then you got to know their specific pain points, their specific goals, their biggest fears. Like, you just put together a free training on how you can achieve X, Y, Z, and in Z time frame without, like
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
reversing their biggest objection. Do that, and then say, mind if I share it with you here? You send them that specific guide or training. Obviously, in that training, you're going to have a ton of call to actions. It's very, very
Yeah.
value based. Like you're essentially
Yeah.
giving them the sauce, but you're the chef, so they can't really
Yeah.
cook up the sauce without you, the
Without the
cook,
chef.
actually being there. So you're
Yeah.
just giving them a ton of value. It builds a lot of trust. You
Yeah.
get their response as well, and then
Yeah.
also there's call to actions in there. And if you do give them a ridiculous amount of value, this is what I talked about with my client earlier.
Yeah.
He does. I told him to do something similar, and he was like, "Yeah, if you give them this much value for free, they're 10 times more inclined to trust you as
Yeah.
an expert. And then if they have that problem and they're looking to solve it, they're not going to go looking for somebody else. They're going to look and work directly with
Just
you.
with you. Yeah.
I think that's a very, very good follow up strategy. And then you could also leverage software is another software, hyperrise.com as
Yeah.
follow-ups. If you've seen that, and then also, whether that's Pitch Lane or Tavis
Yeah.
or some sort of
Mhm.
AI, just like being different in the inbox, right? Written text works. It really, it always has worked. But maybe just
Yeah.
if you want to test, like just like a small little A/B test, Hyperrise or Pitch Lane or videos as follow-ups, not the main message, but the actual follow-ups, like email 2 or 3 or 4, it would not hurt at all.
Makes
Usually, I like
sense.
doing that and just testing a variety of different follow-ups as well.
And I want to sort of call on that question where you keep saying do it on the follow-ups. Is there a reason why you don't do it on the first email, like Hyperize and stuff?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, usually for the first email, I like to just make sure that we land in the inbox
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
pretty
Makes sense.
heavily. Spin
Yeah.
text, no
Yeah.
links, no videos, no images, nothing like that. But usually, if we land in the inbox, I think. I mean, no like crazy volume. Not saying like 100 videos a day. Maybe test in like one campaign, like X amount of inboxes with like very low volume, and then like slowly ramping up, just to be super safe.
Makes sense. Makes absolute sense. And sort of, I want to run that very quickly as a side question. Do you track your opens? Yes, no, why? For either of the two, what's your strategy over there?
So it really just depends. If I'm doing like my own campaigns,
Yeah.
I like to do like no open tracking at
Yeah.
all to ensure
Yeah.
like deliverable, like
Yeah.
HTML, obviously making sure that's taken care of. With
Yeah.
clients, at least like for the first couple of weeks, like they like to see the numbers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Of
They
course.
like to
Yeah.
see the open
Yeah.
rates. They like to see
Yeah.
the reply rates. Just like
Yeah.
it's like a mental thing. So
Yep.
usually I have to sell them on actually like turning
Not
off
having to do
open
it.
tracking.
Yeah.
It's super
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
sell them on that. But usually the first couple of weeks, like I always have open tracking on, make sure that they're seeing like, okay, we're
Yeah.
seeing progress. They
Yeah.
can see the open rates. They can see the reply rates. They can see the positive reply rates, everything like
Yeah.
that. And then I
Yeah.
say like, look, it's really better to just like turn
It
off open
just turned.
tracking.
Fair
And then
enough.
usually they're like, they just trust me after they see that. It's like, okay, we'll just do that.
Makes
Sounds good enough.
sense. Makes sense. And that's something I've seen as well. Is a lot of people are sort of inclined or forced to keep it on because it's a very nice, pretty looking vanity metric that people want to see. Is like, oh, this is actually happening, but it's not. So cool. Makes sense. Cool, man. Running into these the last two sort of questions that I have in mind. What are some absolute copywriting no-nos? I know there's 1,000 things you can do, but there's some things you definitely need to run away from. So, what are some absolute no-nos that you think people do and should not do with respect to copywriting?
In terms of copywriting, I always like to like don't make it too long. Obviously, everybody
Yeah.
talks about this like short,
Yeah.
straight to the point.
Yeah.
But usually, like the copy side, sometimes you can get away with it, but it's really better to like in your if it's for your client or if it's for yourself. Usually, if it's for a client, like some sort of very in-depth onboarding form, and then you can test the angle of like going straight into like their pain points, like mentioning that, depending on like the specific offer. But usually with copy, like you definitely need to have some sort of like market research in play. You don't have to. I mean, I've honestly seen results without that, but it just helps in terms of like knowing the specific audience. Usually with that, just keep it short, straight to the point. Adding, a couple of personalization touch points, whether that's, super relevant to their specific like, job
Niche.
title, employee
Mm,
size,
mm,
market, pain
mm.
points, niche, and then also, just like obviously, I think inside of Smartly, you can also see like if there's no spam keywords, nothing like that.
Yep. Yep.
Making
Yep.
sure that everything is tight knitted, and then usually testing different call to actions, testing different one sentence case studies, different openers, different PS as well, different angles. Like there's so many different ways to test copy. In terms of like not messing it up, just don't make it super long. Don't sound super salesy, and then just make the email as easy as possible for them to respond to in a
To
positive
respond.
manner.
And on that note, do you do hard CTAs? What's your sort of approach over here? Do you say, okay, book a time with me at 3 o'clock tomorrow? Do you follow that advice, or what's your take on CTAs or call to actions?
For call to actions, I always like to test. Obviously, with everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
testing
Yeah.
low
Yeah.
friction versus direct call to action. In terms of low friction, whether that's a video, mind if I share more information, mind if I share a free training, would you be open to even like a 5 minute Zoom call, something like that, or the direct call to action, a phone call,
Mm, mm, mm,
another Zoom
mm,
call as
mm,
well.
mm,
Just
mm,
testing like low friction versus direct call to actions.
mm,
It depends on the market, right? If it's
mm.
e-commerce, if you're targeting e-commerce, like Facebook ads to e-commerce, or even any sort of offer to
Yeah.
e-commerce, it's probably not going to work as well as it
Yeah.
did 2 years ago, three
Yeah.
years ago. Like, do you have time for a call? You got to get
Yeah.
very creative in terms of like the very value based, low friction call to actions. But if
Yeah.
it's like a very new market, like it's not really getting absolutely blasted plastered with cold
Yeah.
email, you might be able to get away with a very very direct call to action.
Direct
It
call
just
to
depends on
action.
the offer and different testing.
Makes sense. I agree with you. I think when everyone's selling the same thing, they're all trying to get into a call, you're going to start saying no. So the video approach is actually a fantastic idea of building the rapport with that person. Last question on to you, man. What is your lead generation process? Let's just take an example. Maybe you're finding leads from marketing agency, right? I know let's not say e-commerce agency, let's say marketing agency. Yeah, walk me through what your process is. Where do you go? Is there a certain tool that you use? What's your approach over here? Because I think leads are the new hot thing compared to copywriting. So it's always good to understand how people do their work.
With the specific databases.
Yeah, just in general, like just say you've acquired a client saying they're a marketing agency looking to get some more leads. They're doing about 40,000 MRR right now. Where do you go? What's your approach over here to find out, all right, we're going to target these 5,000 leads. We're going to use Apollo. We're going to use this filter, or we're going to use LinkedIn, or we're going to use job ads on LinkedIn. What's your general go-to nowadays? Or is there no specific recipe that you follow?
So usually, like, let's say for example, it was an agency wanting to target like PPC agencies or Google
Mm-hmm.
Ads
Mm-hmm.
agencies,
Mm-hmm.
ads agencies. Usually, something like that, it just depends. It's either databases like top of the funnel would essentially be either Apollo,
Yeah.
LinkedIn Sales Navigator,
Yeah.
or if they want to target guys that are already above like 30, 50K a month,
Yeah.
Clutch.co is a very very good one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Because
good one.
those companies on
Yeah.
Clutch, they're already spending 3, 5K a month on
Yeah.
advertising on that specific Clutch platform. So they already make a decent amount of money, and they already have a marketing budget to spend. It just depends on the specific offer, but Apollo, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Clutch.co, UpLead, Lead Shark, ListKit as well. Shout out Christian, ListKit.io, very very good one. In terms of like finding the email addresses and then using Never Bounce to verify them, and then
Okay.
also Scrubby for the catch-alls. That's
Yeah.
kind of like scraping the databases, verifying, and then cleaning as well. That's kind of like what that system looks like and what we usually do.
Okay, fair enough. That's nice and clean. So you sort of work at top of funnel, mid funnel, and then basically attack straight of that, and then obviously you do your cleaning process. Makes perfect sense. Cool, Cody. It was my brain's overloaded, so I need to go ahead and look at some of the things that you've said and done right now. I'm gonna try copy that across and see how it
It's
works
already
for
been
us as well.
30. Dang, it's already finished up.
Yeah, we're already finished up. We've already
Yeah.
we've hammered through some pretty serious questions over here. I think a lot of sauce, very dense sauce that I think a lot of us have to go
Yeah.
ahead and try out in terms of automations. If you were to sort of give away some parting advice for people who are in this space, getting into this space, what would be that one thing you tell them?
I would say it's a good question. I would say if you're in the cold email space, leverage, leverage cold email, like building out the cold email infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
finding ways to personalize at scale,
Mm-hmm.
using high performing scripts, and
Mm-hmm.
then also, the right softwares, which is Smart Lead, and then
Mm-hmm.
other AI as well. And
Mm-hmm.
then also, I would also, leverage some sort of like placing a warm caller or a cold caller, whether that's your own business or in your client's business, to essentially call all leads that do respond to the cold email or even open the email. Mention that inside of, once you do call them as well. That's a key thing that I think, a lot of you guys can implement. And then also leveraging like training, like free training as well, or it's like you're giving value documents away
Okay.
and value-based call to actions as well. Like those two things,
Yeah.
I think that'll help results increase tenfold. If you're just running cold email, implement some sort of marketing asset which you can
Yeah.
leverage and give away
Yeah.
for free, and
Yeah.
then also cold calling.
Makes sense. Bang on. Love it. I think that that playbook approach is an absolute winner. I can say proven point as well that we use that approach and it works absolutely well. In the second email, not the first one, like you said. Immediate value. I liked your analogy of the chef versus the sauce. They are going to listen to the chef in the end and use a tool that you recommended. So absolute game changer. Cody, thank you so much. For those who want to find you, get in touch with you. How can they do that?
So Twitter is the Cody Carnes, and then the YouTube. Probably just put in the link. I don't really
I'll
remember
put
the
the link. I'll put the
username.
link. Yeah, don't worry.
And then
I'll put in the
I
link.
just made
So,
it. Yeah, I
okay.
just made it a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
LinkedIn unfortunately just got permanently restricted for some unknown reason. They won't tell me. So just for now, Twitter, YouTube, and then my website,
Sounds great. I'll link
inhouse.outboundsystems.io.
all three of them, and if people want to get in touch, I'll make sure they do that. Easy, mate. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for your time. It's been fantastic. Cheers.
All right, V. We'll talk soon, man. Thank you.
Bye.